Hello and welcome. Today I'm going to be showing you how to join some different yarns together. I have two different colors here. I know orange and purple, kind of Halloween-y, but also don't go together in this. But we just want to show contrast here and be able to show you kind of what it will look like. So the first method here is that you're joining to, you'll normally use this method if I'm joining like the same color ball and don't want to weave in ends or anything like that. But I'm going to show you two different colors to make it super visible, super clear. So first we're going to start with our purple. You want to line these up like this. You want your one going tail end to working yarn and the other one tail end to working yarn. You're going to take this purple strand here. You're going to cross over the front of the orange. You're going to pick those two up and pull it back under. So now you're going to have a little bit of a loop like this. Now you're going to put that tail back through the loop. So you should have the tail back where it started. And what you're going to do is you're going to tighten it like that. We are going to do the same thing on the other side. So you will take the tail of your orange yarn. You'll cross over the front here. So now you have it overlapping. You're going to push that tail underneath both strands. Bring it back around and you're going to put it through that loop. Remember, you want the tail to be parallel with the working yarn and the working yarn parallel with the tail of the other one. And you're going to pull tight. So now you have two loops or two knots here. You're going to take them and you're going to pull the working yarn and they'll go together there. And you'll tighten them like that. And now you have a knot that won't come apart. And then I like to trim them so that the tail is pretty short. And that way you don't have to work in your tails. So I would just snip off, so you only have a tiny little itty bitty bit. And snip off the other end. So now you just have that knot and you have a strong knot that's not going anywhere. Like I said, I like to use this method to join two balls of yarn when the first one runs out, but you can really use it any way you want. Sometimes people use it when they're striping their yarn with other colors, and they'll do it this way. So that is one way to join your yarn. What do you do when you're working on a piece and you want to change colors? So I will show you one that I was already kind of working on here. And so I'm going to do a couple single crochets here. Okay, now I want to change colors while single crocheting. That's what this project's doing right here, right? So I'm going to show you what it looks like. All right. So you're going to start your single crochet. So you're going to go through and grab that working yarn there. However, you will not be completing it with the purple yarn. You're going to take your orange yarn, put it as if it is that working yarn, and you'll pull it through both loops. It's okay if it's a little loose there. What you're gonna do is you'll do a couple more of your single crochets or whatever stitch it is that you're doing. And then you can go in the back here and tighten both of those up a little bit. And then it'll look like a normal stitch and you won't really be able to see too much of the color change there. If you want, you can tie these two together. I normally do a double knot or and then I'll weave in my ends. Some creators will not do a knot. I like doing the knot just because it secures it more, but it does kind of depend on the piece that you're doing. But when you weave it in and use a locking stitch, it should kind of stay in place. But like I said, I prefer to do the knot. It's all personal preference. Now I'll show you how to do it with a double crochet. We're gonna switch back to purple. So I'm gonna start by making my double crochet. So I'm gonna yarn over, insert into that hook, grab the yarn from behind, and then I'm going to yarn over and go through the first two loops. Now I'm going to stop here at this stitch, or at this stage, and I'm going to grab that yarn, and I'm going to finish my double crochet with that yarn. And then again, if you want to tighten up that stitch, like I said, I'll do a couple of stitches, and then I'll tighten up back there. Back to your yarn. Looks a little like figment. And then it looks like a regular stitch. That one's a little out just because of the way I did it. Like I said, you can always tighten a little bit. I can do another double crochet here to show you again. So you're gonna start your double crochet, you're gonna yarn over, insert into that stitch, grab that working yarn from the back, yarn over and go through 2 loops. And now you're gonna stop at this step. You're gonna pull that working yarn, and you'll go through both loops on your hook. And then you can do a couple double crochets again to solidify that stitch a little bit more. Tighten it up, and there you go. Like I said, it's starting to look like figment from Disney. And that is how you color change when you're in the middle of a stitch. So you can see I have my single crochets and then I changed to my double crochets just to kind of show you some different stitches. Okay, this is the last method I have to show you today of joining yarn. This one is, what if I, finish my row and I just want to switch, but I don't want to start a new stitch. So you can end off your row. I'm just going to leave it like that for now. You can put a slip knot on your hook here. So I'm going to do a slip knot. I always leave a nice tail to weave in. And you can join to that first stitch. So you'll insert your hook with your slip knot on it. And normally you won't have this if you chained off or anything like that. Then you're going to yarn over, pull through that stitch, and then pull through the loops. And that adds it right onto your hook. And then you can chain as normal and start your next row. Just remember with this method that you're gonna have to weave in your ends after, but it does start the row off clean. And I will use this one sometimes if I use a lot of yarns that go back and forth. But like I said, you will end up with those tails to weave in, but it's all personal preference. It will kind of make a little bit more of a gap if you're chaining, but if you do a standing stitch or kind of put it out to the side, you won't have as much gapping. But like I said, it's all personal preference how you join your yarn. I hope this helped today, and happy crocheting.